Have you ever wondered what our world will actually look like in 50 years? It's a question that feels both, way off in the future and incredibly close at the same time. Today, we're going to use real scientific projections to paint a picture of Earth in 2075 and explore what could happen if we keep going down our current path. So let's just dive right in. We're going to be looking at some pretty huge shifts, environmental, ecological, even social, that scientists are predicting could unfold over the next 5 decades. And just to be clear, this isn't science fiction. It's all based on the data we have right now. All right, to get started, we have to look at the engine behind all this change, the immense pressure on our planet's core physical systems. Think of these as the foundational shifts, the ones that trigger everything else we're about to talk about. 2 to 3.5 degrees. Now, I know that might not sound like a big deal for your daily weather forecast, but for the planet's average temperature, it's a monumental change. To put that into perspective, the last ice age was only about 5 or 6 degrees colder than today. A rise of this scale could push entire ecosystems and even our own societies right to their breaking point.
So, what does a warmer planet actually feel like? Well, it feels like the weather is on steroids. Things that used to be once-in-a-century events could just become the new normal. We're talking about scorching heat waves that last for weeks, incredibly powerful supercyclones spinning up from superheated oceans, and this crazy whiplash between bone-dry droughts and catastrophic floods.
This rise is coming from 2 main things. First, and this one's pretty straightforward, the melting of glaciers and ice sheets. But second, there's something called thermal expansion. It's simple physics, really. As water gets warmer, it literally expands and takes up more space. And this isn't just a problem for some faraway islands, it's a genuine threat to major coastal cities like New York, Shanghai, and Mumbai.
An image like this, it really hits home, doesn't it? An Arctic with ice-free summers would be absolutely devastating for wildlife, like polar bears. But the impact of all that melting ice is global. Glaciers in places like the Himalayas and the Alps, people call them the water towers of the world. They're also shrinking fast, and that puts the water supply for billions of people downstream in serious jeopardy.
Okay, this process highlights one of the scariest parts of climate change, these things called feedback loops. As the permafrost thaws in places like Siberia, it releases enormous amounts of trapped methane. And methane is a super potent greenhouse gas, way stronger than CO2 in the short term. So, as the world warms, the permafrost melts, which releases methane, which causes even more warming. You see, it's a dangerous self-reinforcing cycle.
So, these big physical changes aren't happening in a vacuum. Of course not. Now let's dig into the ripple effect, how all this pressure on the planet starts to impact all life, from the tiniest organisms all the way up to entire human societies. This table barely even scratches the surface of the biodiversity crisis we're facing. We're looking at the potential collapse of coral reefs, which are basically the rainforests of the ocean. The Amazon, our planet's lungs, could transform into a dry savanna. And when you see that up to 1 million species are at risk, it's not just about losing cool animals. It's about the entire web of life that we all depend on starting to unravel. And all that ecological stress, it directly threatens our ability to feed a growing population. Our staple crops, rice, wheat, corn, they're all really vulnerable to heat and unpredictable weather. At the same time, our fisheries are declining and new pests are spreading north and south. It's basically a perfect storm for widespread food insecurity. Water, it's said to become one of the most contested resources of the 21st century. As those glaciers that feed major rivers like the Ganges and the Yangtze shrink, water flows are going to get smaller. You combine that with more intense droughts, and it means chronic water shortages are expected for billions of people, especially in places like Africa, the Middle East, and South Asia.
And this leads to one of the most heartbreaking human consequences of all. When your land becomes unlivable, you have to move. We're potentially looking at tens of millions of climate refugees, people displaced not by war, but by a changing planet. It is a migration crisis on a scale we have just never seen before.
What pushes someone to leave everything behind? It could be their coastal home that is now permanently underwater. It could be a family farm that has literally turned to dust after years of drought. Or maybe it's a community where water has become so scarce that it's sparking conflict. Every single one of these drivers is a personal tragedy, repeated millions of times over.
Okay, after seeing all of those stark projections, it's really easy to feel a sense of despair. It's totally natural to wonder if this challenging future is already locked in.
But is it? Is this future inevitable? Well, the crucial answer from climate scientists is a resounding no. The worst impacts are not yet locked in. And this is where the story shifts from being a warning to being a choice.
We already have the tools to build a different future. This isn't some futuristic fantasy. This is about scaling up things that work right now. I mean, imagine an energy grid powered entirely by the sun and wind. Picture our cities with green roofs and special pavements that absorb floodwaters. We can reforest huge areas, innovate crops that thrive in new climates, and even develop technology that pulls carbon right out of the air. This isn't just about survival. It's about creating a smarter, more resilient world.
Ultimately, the Earth of 2075 isn't a destiny that we read, it's a future that we write. The challenges are enormous, there's no question about it. But so is our capacity for ingenuity and change. The coming decades are going to be defined by the choices we make right now. Will our story be one of consequence or one of courage? That choice is ours to make.